Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us today for an afternoon with Xaviera and Dr. Judith Huacuja. My name is Heather Jones. I'm the Curator and Director of Programs and Engagement here at the Contemporary Dayton. I guess I should say upstairs at the Contemporary Dayton. We are in the lower level here. If you've not had a chance to see the exhibition, I would invite you to please stop by after the conversation and see the amazing work by Xaviera in the exhibition. Um, the exhibition contains seven large scale photographs from her index series. I should stick to my notes. Each image is built from a dense layering of materials, photographs, textiles, printed ephemera, and objects from a wide swath of references fastened onto a live figure model. We also have three of Xaviera's paintings from her series In the Dim Light. These works bring together the painterly and the textual in a meditative yet forceful composition. We have two video works by Xaviera, and these expand her multidisciplinary practice into time-based form, merging image, sound, or lack thereof, and motion to construct poetic and critical meditations. And I think most excitedly for us, the exhibition also contains a world premiere of 4 bronze exhibitions. My brain is.
I would love 4 bronze.
Right, wouldn't you? Maybe I just manifested that for us. You're welcome.
I feel it.
Okay. 4 bronze sculptures in the exhibition. It's a world premiere. So Xaviera has worked in sculpture before, but in clay and paper mache. So this is the first time working in this media, and we're thrilled to have those included in the exhibition. And I will read a little bit just to share your bio with us all. Xaviera Simmons' body of work spans photography, performance, video, sound, sculpture, and installation. She defines her studio practice, which is rooted in an ongoing investigation of experience, memory, abstraction, present and future histories, specifically shifting notions surrounding landscape as cyclical rather than linear. In other words, Simmons is committed equally to the examination of different artistic modes and processes. For example, she may dedicate part of a year to photography, another part to performance, and other parts to installation, video, and sound works, keeping her practice in constant and consistent rotation, shift, and engagement. Xaviera Simmons received her BFA from Bard College after spending 2 years on a walking pilgrimage retracing the transatlantic slave trade with Buddhist monks. She completed the Whitney Museum's independent study program in studio art, while simultaneously completing a 2-year actor training conservatory with the Maggie Flanagan Studio. She is a visiting lecturer and the inaugural 2019 Solomon Fellow at Harvard University, and was awarded the Charles Flint Kellogg Award in Arts and Letters from Bard College. In 2019, Simmons' work was included in over 15 museum exhibitions, including shows at the ICA Boston, SF MoMA, the Phillips Collection, the National Museum of Women in the Arts, Barnes Foundation, and many others. In 2017, her work was included in exhibitions at Harvard University, the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago, and the Institute of Contemporary Art in Winnipeg. In the same year, 3 of her works were acquired by the Museum of Modern Art. In 2015, Simmons was awarded the Foundation for Contemporary Arts Robert Rauschenberg Grant. She has exhibited nationally and internationally, where major exhibitions and performances include the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Contemporary Arts Museum in Houston, the Public Art Fund, the Sculpture Center, the Aldrich Contemporary Art Museum, the Museum of Contemporary Art Chicago, Institute of Contemporary Art Boston, and Brooklyn Museum, among many others. Her works are included in major museum and private collections, including the Museum of Modern Art, the National Museum, Deutsche Bank, the Rubel Family Collection, UBS, the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum, the Agnes Gunn Art Collection, the Museum of Contemporary Art Chicago, the Studio Museum in Harlem, ICA Miami, the High Museum, the De La Cruz Collection, and the Perez Art Museum. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Dr. Huacuja is Professor Emeritus of Art History. She spent many years at the University of Dayton, and we are lucky that you are in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we even begin, I want to thank everyone that's here for showing up. Dayton is very creative and engaging and active site in the United States right now. I know that from experience. You're going to see that being here. Venues like this, the Contemporary Gallery of Dayton, are rare in our region. Yes, we have lots of galleries, several activist galleries. We have the Dayton Art Institute, but it's the that's been able to pull together the economic, intellectual, moral, emotional support of people in this region to keep bringing artists like this into Dayton, Ohio. I see a lot of young people, a lot of artists. And, this is the kind of energy and visual information that helps compel us forward, that gives us a sense of connectedness. So I want to thank you for coming and thank you, the for continuing to feed the artistic and creative cultures of Dayton, Ohio. Thank you. Now, why I'm so excited that you're here, I've been watching your work for a couple of years, and shot out in national, international circuits right at the time of COVID. And you were exhibiting at times when a lot of people weren't. Those of us who were shut in, we had access to your work. You've been a cultural warrior in a number of ways. I've told you that before. And this person works, as you heard, in a lot of different media, but one of the things that you might notice as we're looking at the works, and I think the works are just going to rotate through, and some of the works are by those artists who have influenced her. She's going to ask you, I'll let her ask you about writing comments on your postcards. But for me, the way that I enter her work is through this very hard hitting sense of the body, the physicality, the emotions, the knowledge, the intellect that we carry in our bodies. I made sure we inserted in your number of images the photographs that you did of yourself and other young women, I believe, mostly yourself, holding photographs from archival research of the past relating to different histories. But always those images were held here at the core, the trunk area of the human body. And that kind of theme resonates even through the video, the photographs, and some of the paintings and sculpture you're going to see today. I'll be asking you questions about the body, but I'm going to give you a chance to introduce your themes and maybe let people know the questions you're looking for.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. It's nice to see everyone, and thank you so much, obviously, for being here. Thank you to the and for hosting me here. I feel really honored and thankful. I love this region because my husband's from 45 minutes away from here in Richmond, Indiana. So I've spent a lot of time in the area. I feel really thankful. And I would say before we even start, I would say I want to echo something that you said, which is I think, you know, at this juncture, contemporary art spaces are really going through, like all of us in different ways, going through a lot. And I think it's so critical that whatever resources we have to support our institutions, so in this case, this would be the in Dayton, that we, find those resources to not only support financially, but also to, you know, engage artistically, to go visit, to learn and meet the director and actually talk to the curators, make yourself a part of the community. Like, I'm sure most of you all are, but I just want to reiterate it, I guess, for the cameras. Like make sure that you're, Eva, like personally, like she's accessible and available. Yes. And most nonprofit institution, it's a nonprofit, right? Most nonprofit institutions, there's the board, and I'm speaking directly to the young folks. There's the board, right? You should know who all of those people are. Who are the people who are funding your institution? And you should be really close to the curator and the director. I'm sure they have an open door to speaking to you all. And I think it's really critical because the institutions are only as good as the communities that engage with it. Um, and if you don't engage with them, then these institutions will shudder. So I think it's really critical um, to spend some time not only with the art, which is wonderful, but also with the people who make the art happen. And so I especially want to thank Heather and Heather's husband. I don't remember your name, but thank you so much for you're you're an artist, and I'm thankful to you for installing the work and installing the paintings and the sculptures and the plinths. Yeah, I think I get really emotional when I think about labor the most. So I think the most important thing to me about being an artist is labor. The fact that we understand that art is, yes, esoteric. Yes, it's mystical. Yes, it's religious. Yes, it's spiritual. Yes, it's creative. Yes, it's formal. Yes, it's historical. But really, art is also a form of labor. And that labor needs to be compensated. It needs to be respected. It needs to be fought for. And the last thing I'll say before I get into the work is that Ohio in particular and this region in particular are really, um, you know, the historically, and this is why I really,
Yeah.
this is why I wanted to have Judith here, not only an art historian, but an art historian understands that the history of art is tied to the history of social experiences, and unions are a huge part of the United States, whether we agree or disagree. And I want to encourage artists, the artists in here, but also the arts workers, to understand what it means to organize together and to, if you can, unionize your workplace. I'm a strong advocate of that. That has been something that behind the scenes has cost me a lot. Um, because I advocate for artists at the expense, my husband can say, of my own work, but I'm okay with that because I feel that the only way for artists to be paid properly, to receive the proper care, is to collectively organize, which actually means being uncomfortable with each other and speaking to each other kind of regularly and being frustrated and working collectively. And if any of you, my DMs are open, so if anyone needs any information about how to organize, I'm happy to provide that information. I have a network of people across the country who have been organizing their museums and institutions, and I also have workbooks. So I just wanted to add.
Going to call out any websites or organizations?
No,
Yeah. Okay.
just DM me and I will send you the details. But I think it's really important that especially young arts workers, not young arts workers of all kinds who cannot hire and fire. That's another story. Who cannot hire and fire. And lastly, I'll say most nonprofits have a board. So that means the people who are governing, which most of us know. So if a nonprofit or a museum has a board, so and there that's a collective body. So should artists and arts workers have a collective body to make decisions together. And I think the stronger we fortify collective engagement, the better quality of life we will have as artists and arts workers. So I wanted to say that, and that really informs a lot of my work.
And there's a strong history of artists since the 1960s coming together and organized to make positive change happen. Positive change began to happen in the 70s and 80s, and there was the multiculturalism backlash, and people have continued to build better art institutions that are more open to women, people of all walks of life. But then also very much trade unions and understanding the economy is a big part of how we're interacting with society today. Would you say that's reflecting in your artwork that you're making right now?
Oh no, right now I'm here's what I'm not gonna talk about. I'll
Okay.
just say that.
All right.
I'm not gonna but I would say we have cards on the what are these seats, I guess. And I would ask if everyone could ask one question, and we're gonna collect them all, and then we'll pick from them. But
That was my one. I don't
that
get
was
it.
your no, you get a lot more. But I would ask that everyone just write one question. It can be simple. You can ask anything. It can be easy as you're listening, as you're looking, or thoughts you have, or opinions, or disagreements. Here's what I won't be talking about, though. I won't be talking about race. I won't be talking about capitalism. I won't be talking about black folks. I won't be talking about white folks. I'm not going to talk about struggle too tough, except for unionize and organize, because that's critical and that gets into all the rest. And I'm not going to, I'm going to focus on my work and the joy that I find at this juncture in my career of making, different types of artworks. I if you're interested in my ideas, particularly on race, or capitalism or blackness or whiteness or struggle, there are many articles I've written, I'm a part of, New York Times, all the things. So easy Google
Videos too.
videos. But what I'm most excited in 2025, given all that we've just been through, and the past 5 years especially, what I'm most excited about is to just simply be inside of my studio, being the person that I am, having the history that I have, making works that are answers to questions that I have, or also mostly in conversation with artists that I love. I think that's the impetus of how I work in general, is basically in conversation with other artists.
And there's much upstairs that interacts with that history of art that you've been involved in for the past maybe 15 years, 20 years. But then you have studied art history the past 100 years, and certain artists are coming right to mind as you're working in bronze, you're developing the large figural pieces, but they relate magnificently with the photographic work. Would you talk about that relationship between the sculptures, the photographic work, and maybe even those archival images that you did?
Sure. So I used to make a lot of work. I was really obsessed with the Hudson River School and all of the kind of like Flemish painters and European, art historical painting, and sculpture, and I love them. And I studied abroad with, I don't know, do you all know Stephen Shore, this photographer, Stephen Shore? Mm-hmm. He's a really great person to look up. But anyway, I studied with Stephen Shore and another person who was my mentor named Anmi Lee. And they were Stephen's work is large format, and that's how he taught. He taught us, large format 4x5 cameras like Ansel Adams, or big, use 8x10. But, the next size under. So these huge cameras, we would go into the landscape and make a lot of work. And I've made a lot of work like that for many, many years. And then I realized, like, I really just want to be inside of my studio. I'm a Taurus. Like, we both, like, introvert, outrovert, right? Like, and I really wanted to be inside of my studio. And I wanted to make sculptures, but I'm not a sculptor. I wasn't a sculptor. I was a photographer trained. So I started to make these works on body, that are, and the works, some of the works that are upstairs, they're on actual live bodies, figure models, but they accumulate to create a more sculptural landscape on the figure. So that's how I started to make sculptures.
And they're not sculptures that she then, keeps as artwork. She assembled them.
Yeah,
you do all that labor for the photographed image.
For the photograph.
There's some meaning embedded in that too. The photograph is an archival record, as a witness.
Yeah, and also I think because I come from a performance background, I really love putting people through it, meaning to build the sculptures that you'll see in the indexes upstairs, which I thought, are they showing on the screen? Yeah. To build the indexes, yay. to build the index photographs, I mean, it's like a whole labor. It's like, again, going back to labor. I keep looking over here for some reason. I don't know. I'm like, are you all labor organizers? What's going on? I kind of magnetically feel you. To build. I'm interested in time and strength and how long it takes to build something on an actual person that is very uncomfortable. My husband has been one of my models, like had to hold like a whole bunch of weight for like hours. And then I'm working slowly with this film camera and I'm like trying to make a sculpture, but also only to document it, not to like have it exist in the world. And so that's still a practice that I do.
All that you just described, that's performance.
Yeah.
Like you said, you use that word. You're performing this instance of amalgamation and then staging it and photographing it. And then it becomes an index, something that you can point to.
Yeah.
And we talked about Joseph Beuys in the beginning of performance in the 1960s. And Joseph Beuys had this very radical idea about knowledge being free for everyone and art being free for everyone. That's been an influence. Does that tie in to these index series in any way?
I feel it was really wonderful. Eva, Heather, and Judith and I had a conversation to plan for this conversation, and Judith actually pulled out Joseph Beuys, which is not it's not someone that he's not someone that I had spoken about with Eva and Heather regarding the show, but he's very influential to me because I mean, for the simple fact, and it goes back to the respect of the art historian and the massive respect I have for the person who decides to make a career out of being specific about art history and what it is and its importance, and holding the history. Um, Joseph Beuys very much controlled his narrative, for better or for worse. I'm not saying he was like, God's gift to art, but at the same time, what I take away from him all the time is, yes, the material culture, but also the control of the narrative, which I find really fascinating. And I think that it's something that has always stuck with me. When I learned about his practice, I learned, okay, I have to control. I that's something that I agree with, controlling the narrative of how my works are read. And so, for better or for worse, like my hand is in pretty much everything that's written about my work. I would say, except for there's an article in the New York Times that's like, I really wish that they had let me have my hand in it, but for the most part, like all the press releases, all the writings, I'm really interested in like language. Obviously, that's why the text-based works are there, and I think I really got a lot of that from Joseph Beuys's practice of like controlling all the different aspects of how you tell a story beyond the visual final piece of a thing. Yeah.
And Beuys was an educator, and Beuys repeatedly used similar shapes and forms and materials. And that's a kind of pointing to and directing. It's not just your verbal ideas captivating an audience, but the continual pointing to certain shapes and parts of the body and poses of the body.
And color, like specific colors and textures. I mean, which art? I mean, all of us do that to some degree. I think some of us just, especially someone like Joseph Beuys, just their what's the word? Their persona, their cult of personality somehow takes it to this influential space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's let people ask questions. Are you ready yet?
I'm ready. I love it. But I want to collect them all, and I don't want to know who asked what.
Oh.
Because unless you want to ask, you can ask as many questions. But I'm really interested in like collecting them, and like
And letting
no one
people
not
take a
owning
risk
them.
without
Take a risk
visibly
with the
being.
questions, yeah, or disagree with me, or tell me I don't know about Joseph
Just
Beuys.
hold up your hand like that.
Yeah.
Hold up your hand if you have the card.
Oh no, we want everyone to submit a card.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh no, we're not taking raised hands. No, I'm just joking. Yes, yes, sir. You had a
You
question.
want me to ask?
Yeah.
Okay, this is your hand in the cookie jar. Did you go to the foundry and help with the pour and stand there and look over their shoulder and bang on the bowls?
Oh my God, I really wish they were. No, I did not, but my husband did translate because they only speak Spanish and he speaks fluent Spanish. So I was very thankful because he was able to translate for me so that I could have the objects be exactly as I wanted them to be. But there's gorgeous images of them that they sent me, not of them casting my work, but of them casting other people's works, and it's a very mystical, magical, gorgeous process. But no, I did not. Oh wait, I need my babe. Can you get my glasses? They're in the green room. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Good one.
Are there any more? Yeah, because there's a lot of people here. Who's an artist here? I'm just curious.
Raise your hand if you're an artist. Raise them high. Oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Thank you.
And who's like a more board member, finance person, resources? Yeah, yeah.
Excellent.
Hey, who's an organizer? You can't unionize because you hire and fire. You cannot organize because you hire and fire. So that's yeah. Thank you. Orange. Okay. Thank you. Do you want to read the questions or yeah, you read the questions. I'll let you do.
Sad. There were a lot.
There's a lot. I love this. I love this.
Describe a love dream.
Ooh. Does anyone want to identify who asked that question? I love you. It was you, girl.
I didn't know if I would be.
Describe a love dream.
Yes.
Wow. You. No, I'm just joking. Wow, that's a difficult one, hon. I think, to be really honest, I think I'm in a love dream now.
Oh.
And I say that now because I feel very thankful in this moment for this exhibition actually, and it was difficult. We had, a lot of tough conversations about what I didn't want, and also the economic times right now are such that it's difficult. Having exhibitions in this 2025, it's a real privilege, no matter where it is. I love seeing the bronzes. This is the first time I've produced bronzes, and I'm like enchanted by the whole idea and the whole mysticism of it. And I try to be as present as I can be in a moment. So I feel I just came out of staying with my husband's family, and they have a really comfortable home and with our dogs and other beautiful things that we have upcoming. And I feel really fortunate for the opening yesterday, and the amount of people who came and all of the caring. So I feel like I'm someone who is frequently in a love dream because I'm frequently, I think, how do I want to say this? I think that to be in a love dream doesn't mean that I'm happy all the time, but I do feel a sense of grace. And maybe that's the Black American descendant of slavery, D'Angelo's Sade loving person in me. I understand grace in a way that makes me feel like I'm basically walking in a love dream, no matter how difficult things actually are, because I understand breath and I'm thankful to be alive. like these questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why bronze? How did you arrive using bronze? Are you going to go back to ceramic or paper mache, or do we get larger bronzes?
Bronze is very expensive, but yeah, I think I feel like I would like to experiment with bronze, paper mache, ceramics, more bronze, gold, whatever, however, the resources can come for me to make the work, and if there's interest in me making those works, I would love to make more bronze. And I chose bronze because I actually had made these works much larger in paper mache. And I wanted the paper mache to look like bronze, but I wanted it to be paper mache. And then I was like, but wait, I actually want them to be a sturdy thing that lasts, and also a certain type of, this bronze specific material. I mean, I think that's it. I don't think it's tied to, what it's not tied to is monuments and the history of monuments and the Confederate. I'm not interested anymore. I'm much more interested in the kind of history of art as it relates to artists working with bronze, and some of my favorite artists over time who worked with bronze, and I would like to be part of that kind of lineage.
And we're showing some of them. Giacometti,
Giacometti,
very emotionally expressive.
gorgeous. I mean,
The modernists like Mayol or
not,
Degas,
I don't know.
or even the Latin American modernist Botero with his huge.
Gorgeous, stunning. Botero, stunning, beautiful. I love them all. I don't really not like most artists, actually, which is another part of like this grace that I feel. I Even if I don't love the work, which some of my contemporaries, I'm like, I want more, but I still, of course, appreciate and am thankful for the effort that they made to make the work. The only thing I would say, whatever material they're working in, is that I'm always interested in artists who change. And so, and I know this is tied to capitalism, so I'm not going to talk about it too tough, but I will say that to change means that, especially as an artist, capitalism doesn't always love change. Art collectors don't always love change in the traditional sense of collecting. People like things, they want the same thing, right? That they saw at the museum. They want the one that's adjacent to the museum. And that's the part of being a contemporary artist that I find very frustrating. But I understand that it's tied to capitalism and a need to survive to some degree, or a need to produce so that you can thrive.
But we're not talking about capitalism.
No. And I literally said what I'm not talking about in my own writing, my own part.
Well, there's several asking, can you talk about the form of the sculptures? Some mentioned the Venus de Willendorf, and others even more specifically the rings and the posture and the form itself. So.
I think I could talk a lot about Figure 11 because that's the one I just made. And for me, this one, I was thinking contemporarily. Like, I was like, what is a pose that if you found it in a few hundred years, what is one pose? And I think this is a kind of long poem that I'm about to start making with these works. What are poses that are now? What does it look like now? What is fertility look like now? What does sensuality look like now? What is kind of a freedom of figure look like now? So I wanted to think about that in this pose, and I don't want to get too deep into the adornment, but I think right now, because making these types of works are fairly new to me, the word alone, adornment, it reminds me of, do you guys all know this song by Prince called Adore?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Adore my husband knows I'm a big D'Angelo, God rest his peace, God rest his soul, and Sade fan. but and so I tend to think in the way that they sound right now. And Adore, which if you know that song, it's so sensual. It's so, for lack of a better word, it's so God given. And it's a very spiritual thing, you know, and I think about being adorned by someone, or adorning someone or something. And I don't know, there's something with adorn and anointing, that those two words right now, and grace, those three words I would say are grace, adorn, anointing, are I hold those dear to me. And I think that figure 11 for me, the newest one, has a lot to do with those words: grace, adornment, anointing. And I was really, you know, like I said earlier, I usually have my hands in a lot of how the exhibition looks, the writing. And in this exhibition, I did not. Meaning I did have my hands in the writing and stuff, but I did not install this work at all, which is like, I think, a first for me. And and when I walked in yesterday to see the exhibition, I was so thankful and pleasantly surprised, because Eva and Heather and the team had placed figure 11 in such a way for me that felt very graceful. It felt like it highlighted the adornment and the adoring and the grace of like building a sculpture in that form with that figure and that kind of gesture. It was really lovely to see, and it was a surprise for me because I didn't know it was going to be that way.
This next participant says, I love figure 11. She looks like my body. Why is her pear shape influencing you?
Love that question. I think the answer is in the question. I think, you know, that figure looks like a lot of, I mean, I love Giacometti, like the next one. Like, I love his work. But I also, so I think about him a lot, and of course it's in conversation, so I'm thinking a lot about, well, what's the other thing? You know, like what's the what is the body that I think is sensual, or that reflects my own body, but also really, it's really like, what body do I think is sensual? You know, and I think it encompasses most bodies, and most of my figures, the sculptural works that even I'm making on now, I'm always like thinking about the 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 roundness of things and the suppleness. And again, it goes back to those words. What were my words? Can you remind me? Wait, I can't. Can you say it again?
Grace.
I need it all together.
Grace. Anointment. And adornment.
Adornment. I need to write those down. Yeah. Yeah, I think that those, like, I don't know, I'm having a D'Angelo moment, I guess, because he just passed, and probably his spirit in my head is, that's the body, that's the love, that's the sensuality, that's the suppleness, that's also the historical, that's also the art historical body. And I think it's really important for me as a student of sculpture, because I'm not a tradition, you know, that's not what I've done my whole life. It's important for me to start at the beginning. And for me, the beginnings, you know, are always, of course, tied to African fertility symbols, but also European sculptural symbols that have been found not that long ago, and then things that have been found long ago. So I'm still at the beginning of my practice as a sculptor.
So this is a good segue for the next question. Talk in more detail about the differences and similarities between the 2D figures and the 3D figures.
Can I come back to that?
Okay, you're going to come back to it. You're going to hold it.
I'll hold it.
All right, so several, controlling the narrative, what? So, how do you work with galleries when they write and do the PR? How do you control what's said about your work?
I like
Why is having your hand in everything associated with your work important to you?
My gallerist, David Castillo, is like the coolest. I mean, we have been friends for a really long time. He, and this is rare. I have to say this is rare because, again, like I said, I work with artists and organize them and know what goes on. It's rare to have someone who understands that you have to make a living, but also is open, who is not even open. That's not the word. It's just collaborative with how you explain the work, understands the work. It goes back to having someone who understands the history of art and the relationships between artists and how artists have navigated systems, economic systems over a long period of time. So, the press release, I mean, the gallery welcomes my hand in the press release. The gallery, most of the time, museums and exhibitions welcome my hand. I think, and I'll be, very clear, like when we started writing the press release for this exhibition, we had some tension, graceful tension, because there are certain things that I think I'm known for in my work. I've been an advocate for Black folks for decades. I've been very, like, critical of whiteness and white supremacy. I've been critical of capitalism, critical of all of these things. And I think people are used to having that language be a part of every conversation that I have. But at this juncture in my career and my work, it's there. It's I am that thing. You know what I mean? So I don't need to, for lack of a better word, beat it over the head. I'm not going to, we all know. We know. We know what needs to happen. Whether we choose to do the thing, and I understand all the reasons why we don't choose to do the thing, because we're afraid, or because we don't want to lose the status, or because we don't want to look at our family's histories tied to slavery. We don't want to look at, like, being Black and respectable. We don't want to look at all of the things. And so as an artist, I don't feel comfortable at this juncture carrying that whole weight every time I walk into a room. I think it's really important for me to also find and be in joy, grace, adornment, anointing. So we had a lot of tension, and we basically I had to shave the language away so that we could get to, like, where I am now when thinking about Figure 11, which is a much more sensual and forgiving space. And again, if someone is interested in, like, all the other things, there's plenty written about and talked about. But at this juncture, I'm really excited for this exhibition because it's for me, it's beautiful, and I'm interested in that beauty right now.
And in these medieval times, when everything suddenly went medieval for all of us, that space that you're holding for yourself, we are cognizant of the need for that and respectful. And so many in the community are spending their time and effort to come together and support one another in those blessed and joyful ways.
Yeah.
Much respect.
Thank you. How are you all doing?
Excellent.
Oh, wow. You feeling anointed? Good, graceful. I hope so.
All right. Okay. They're going to want you to get back to the how you deal with galleries.
Oh,
For someone stuck in a space and disconnected from creativity, like many are feeling right now, just isolated, alienated, troubled. How do you recommend the journey of getting into creativity as a lifestyle?
Oh, I like that question.
Mhm.
What's your relationship to money? Right? Like, creativity is one thing, but then to make a living is another thing, right? Like, so if you want to be an artist who makes a living, then we always have to understand our relationship to money and like how we're going to get it and how we're not going to have it. Or, I mean, David Hammons famously said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, and if you all know that artist, David Hammons, being an artist, he said this probably in the 80s or 90s. He said being an artist is like taking a vow of poverty, right? Which I'm like, oh no, like don't say that. But yes, it's true, but no, you know what I mean? I think you have to reconcile your relationship to your wants and desires if you want to be an artist as a job. But if you want to be creative, I mean, I would start with a kid's book. I mean, I would start with like the coloring book. Like, why not? Or whatever it is whatever material you're most excited about. Or I would speak to someone like Judith, who is an art historian, and really pick their mind, because they have all the information to understand who to look at, to determine which channel you want to turn on. But it's the making the living part. It's the creativity when you want to make a living is hard. It's difficult, beautiful, difficult. And then the people who have to also make sure that there's resources inside of the institutions, they have a difficult task too. And so how do you make friends with and have difficult conversations with the people who are going to enable the creativity to also make you a living? Or are you okay to work another type of job and make your creativity flourish in a different way? Both those things are acceptable and respectable. I think they're actually really beautiful. I don't think everyone has to decide that, like, I'm an artist, therefore I'm going to struggle with that in 2025 in the United States. And also, can I just
Yeah,
I don't know if
please
I don't want to ramble on, but tell me your name again?
Christine.
I was talking to Christine, and we were talking about moving to New York. You know, moving to New York, or moving to Los Angeles. And I think it's really beautiful when artists not stay put, but establish where they are. So for instance, if you live in Ohio and you have affordable living, and like you don't have to struggle to have a roof over your head,
Okay.
save. This is my advice to young folks and students especially. Stay. Ohio is fabulous, right? Make friends and community inside of Ohio. Make friends with the Make friends with Heather. Make friends with Eva. Make friends with Heather's husband, who I can't keep remembering. Yeah, Jeff. Make friends with each other. Like I said, organize. And then with that saving, make friends with the board members, right, of each institution, which is critical. This is what we're lacking in a lot of the arts, is like there's the board and then there's the artist, and somehow but make friends with Judith and the art historians, and then make us vibe here, and then use your little extra resources to go to New York or LA or Paris once a month or once every other month to see all and go to openings and stuff. But make a vibe where you are, so you don't have to be in debt. Because I actually didn't do that, and I should have, and I went into debt, to be an artist. And I think it's no, we don't have to do that now. I didn't really answer the question.
Can you read this one? Let's see. Artists will say the work of art.
Artists will say the works of art are defamed by the observer of the art. How does that interact with your ability to control the narrative? Define. Artists will say, here you go, the work of art are defined by the observer of the art. how does that interact with your ability to control the narrative? I would like not to speak so much about the work at this juncture in my career. I didn't want a press release. I didn't even want wall labels. But, for educational purposes, and Judith, I'm curious, like, what you think as an art historian about that. I don't need to, I feel like the work should exist for itself, right? But at this juncture, but I know that people need to learn it and they're at various stages of understanding things. So,
You yourself are so conversant in all these world histories and cultures and contemporary American and European art histories, and your work relates to all of those. So it seems fair to the audience these days to offer some kind of in. It doesn't have to be a title. I noticed now that you had on purpose not put in titles. Behind your back, I went and put in as many titles as I could, and I'm sorry for
yeah,
that.
that's okay.
And I see that you have a strategy around that. So it's interesting for audience members. Do titles help? Do talks like this help? I think they do quite a bit. I've taught art history for 24 years, and students love getting the cultural references. They don't need to be told, what does this mean, right? You get the cultural references, you start putting it together in your own, categories of mind and develop a value system around it. And even, Boyce, avoided so much literal information. I'm going back to him again, but it's because of the repetition of certain strategies. And you certainly have a repeated strategy that's running through all of your work. Could you put your finger on it for us? Like between these, the index series, and the contemporary 3D work.
Mm, I don't know. I don't know that I can. I don't know that today. I think I've summed it up previously, but I think the best thing I could say is that I'm really influenced by other artists. So I try to look at a lot of art all the time. I'm always reading. I also love other things like architecture. I love design. I love economics. My husband's a creative director, so he's always looking at other artists to pilfer for their advertisements. I love you, but but like seriously, like I interior design, curation. I'm really right now obsessed with law. Because I've been through like a legal thing and I'm like, wow, like law is really exciting. I read a lot of
And your history. It's
and
built
it's
on history,
and it's
historical record.
history, oppressive
Like
or
art.
not.
Mhm.
Yeah. And also I read to make my text works, I read a lot and collect language. Poetry is really important to me. Um
Oh, what someone asked, who are the authors that inspire you?
who asked that question? Hey. Um I mean, I'm Black. I like Toni Morse. You know what I mean? I love Orhan Pamuk. Yeah. Probably one of my favorite writers. He wrote this really wonderful book called Istanbul. That I would say is one of my favorite books. I love. Have you guys ever seen The Namesake by? It's a book by Judith Huacuja, but it's actually the film is by Mira Nair, who is Mandam. I can't even say his name. Mandami. How do you say his name? My New York mayor. Mandami's mother.
Yeah.
Like the namesake is so amazing. I'm like excited about him just because I love that movie so much. I mean every probably all. Who else do I love? I mean Toni Morrison is the queen. Like I don't know what else to think. There's really you don't need to like. I think about even though I said I wasn't going to talk about race, I'm going to say this. I think all of the things that we've gone through these past few years, and everybody's like, I don't have any answers. I don't know, and it's like, but Toni Morrison and James Baldwin really did already say it, right? We already know. That's why I kind of feel crazy to not to talk about this stuff, because we already know. I love Natalie Diaz's post-colonial love poems. That's a really gorgeous set of writings. John Updike, I used to love his Rabbit series.
Wow.
And there's reading is fundamental, right? Yeah.
And many, I think there are a lot of young artists here. They want you to tell everyone a typical day in the studio. Where's your studio? What all do you have in there? Is it music? Is there aroma? Is it clean? So,
Ooh. Is it clean? Who asked that one?
it's like 3 or 4.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have altars. My house is my studio. I have a lot of storage, so I'm gonna answer this question in 2 ways. The reason why I want people to organize is because artists have to pay for things like storage, which when you make a contract to have an exhibition, that's not thought of, right? Like the same way like the museum has to pay for storage plus its rent and all that, and the staff and all this stuff. Like as an artist, I have to pay my studio rent, I have to pay my home mortgage, I have to pay storage for works that haven't been sold. I split, to be, when something sells, it's 50% of it goes to my gallerist, plus there's production costs, right? And so it's not, even if you sell a lot, the most like famous people that even if they sell a lot, they don't have tons of money because there's a lot of expenses and costs. But my studio is inside of our home. I've had all different types of studios, and my husband kept saying to me at one point, like, you guys are expected to have a lot of stuff. Like, you're expected to have this loft, right? Like, we're supposed to have this loft with like all the stuff out, and it's supposed to be clean, but we're supposed to have the artwork. And like, he was like, that's a lot of an expense. And I'm someone who likes to work at home. So half of our home, we live in Los Angeles, half of our home is my studio, even though I don't, but he pays for he shares the cost with me, right? Like, so half of the home is the studio, plus I have like 10 storage units. And I cook while I make my work. I have altars in most every room of my house. A lot of flowers, and then we have a beautiful courtyard in the middle that I make a lot of the work in right now.
What part of LA?
You coming over?
It's a huge megapolis.
I know.
It's territorially the largest in the United States. Give me a break.
Yeah, no, it's near Venice.
Okay.
Not far from there.
All right.
So
I'll
yeah,
drop in anytime.
always love them. But yeah, lots of scent, lots of food, lots of objects. It's cool.
All right. We got one more, and then we're getting back to what you put aside. In addition to what artists have you inspired you, talking about the triptych pieces.
Those are the text works, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think in this slideshow, there's like these large, I've done works where I've taken like court documents, or like I took Representative Conyers HR 40 reparations bill and written the whole entire thing. It's called Rupture. I think it's up there. Or I've translated, for the Perez Art Museum, I did this piece where I translated my own language that I built into the sculpture. I had it translated into Spanish, Haitian, Creole, and French. No, what was the third? Spanish, Creole. I think and then French,
Yeah.
and then English. And those works are huge. They're really physical. They're very they take a long time. And just like before I started making the indexes, which has really led me to making sculptures, I wanted to be in my studio and not make something so massive. It's physical. It hurts. Like this is a whole build, basically a building inside of a building. And it's a lot of research, and I wanted to make more simple cinematic gestures, poetics with the triptychs, and also work with paint. Really, really simple. Work with paint, work with simpler language, and kind of have more fun with 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 painting, really.
We're down to either the last or the second to last question. So you decide if you want to come back to those. So the final one might be, um, so any new media that you're looking to explore, and how do you begin to work with a new media?
Who here said they were an artist? What new? I'm curious what new medias you all are working with, so I can like learn. What new media, or I guess I'm gonna rephrase the question, which is like, and I want you all to answer is, what new media are you all most excited, or are you most excited about traditional mediums? Is it mediums or media?
Media.
Media.
Medium.
Bye, ladies. Bye. Thank you.
Go ahead.
You all go. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not an artist, but I take art classes for fun. And I recently took a wheat pasting class, and I really enjoyed it just because it was kind of like a different take on graffiti. Like, I don't think I'm really somebody who could go out with a spray can and create something that I like, but the idea of being able to create something on paper and then install it. And then just because you said traditional media, I love magazines, and I also recently took a screen printing class, and I just love how accessible screen printing is. So,
Give me some more. I want to hear everyone's answer. Yeah.
I'm interested in woodworking. Um, I'm a painter, but I love Ella and Atsui, his woodwork. Not only that, but his large scale wine foil, curtains, I guess you call them, or hanging pieces. But even though I'm afraid of a bandsaw and a drill press, I have those things now in my garage, which is an extension of my studio at home. So whenever I'm about to use something, one of those pieces or one of those machines, I'll have my husband come out and just stand there. So in case,
Safety.
finger or something. But I really love exploring and using some carving tools to just get into the wood, and the wood is all found in my surrounding, and it's newfound to me because I just got a puppy, and my dog loves sticks as much as I do now. And I find myself, fighting with my puppy over, no, I want that stick, or I want that branch, and so that's been really exciting for me.
Wow.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
I work in mixed media, but something I'm experimenting with has been with coffee grounds and coffee beans, and cigar ashes, because there's a local, it's black owned, I'm not saying race. Well, Right Dunbar Cigar Shop and Lounge in the Right Dunbar area, and just being able to use some of the things that I think are important, because they do have woman-owned cigars that they sell inside the shop. So that has just been like another layer of certain things that I want to include, and I did include it in my latest art piece that said Bing Davidson Studio as the cigar, partially smoked. But
Good.
just looking at those layers, yeah.
I'm so interested in that. Just thinking of what you're saying. Everyone said pretty like for traditional in a way. Like I does anyone? I'm curious if anyone, but like it seems like you all are really we're still into the hand,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just curious if anyone is working with like AI or animated things, like, and what that means or feels like in this juncture. Yeah.
Mm.
And teaching it.
And can you talk about it? Like what it like? Cause yeah. Can you talk about it?
Well, I'm not doing AI in my work. I did take a workshop where we did animation using AI just to see like what was going on with it. But I do animation and digital video.
Yeah.
And right now I'm kind of experimenting with bringing that back with combining it with traditional media like painting, hand torn and cut paper. But actually the question was actually mine because I was interested in media that's new to you, like how you approach, for instance, if I haven't seen it yet, but the animation work or time-based work for you, if your background isn't in that, how do you approach kind of something that you have in mind? Do you learn
I just do
to
it.
skill share it or
I read a lot. I literally look at artists just to share this. Like when I first started making art, especially at the college level when I was studying with Anmi, I remember Anmi, who's an amazing artist, Anmi Lee. She was like, "You just have to stick to photography," and I was, and I that never worked with me, and I never when I've taught, I've never done that. I've never said that to students. Like I know that
That's
yeah, I do love like jazz, right? Like you need or like music, like you need to know the spine of a thing. Like you need to know, you need to understand. But then after that, there's like you gotta flow, you gotta play. It's you gotta play. But I think also again it goes back to the art historian. I think I'm a bit of a nerd. I can't rattle off every single artist, but I'm a bit of a art. I love looking at artists in their studio working. I love looking at their different textures, and then I just want to. It's literally like I want to be in conversation with them, and that's where how I flow. That's how I start to make other things. I mean, I was known as a photographer for a long time, and then I just started making these huge text works out of nowhere, and then now people know that, and now, you know, whatever the painting or whatever the story is, I just try to push myself, and I was telling Eva and Heather and Dr. Judith that I'm in a tightrope right now. I'm walking on a tightrope because I'm trying to shift and learn. Not animation, but I want to learn. Not AI, but I want to learn how to make better sculptures, formal sculptures.
and you're moving from photographs in the landscape of the body, engaged in the landscape, to making photographs, people carrying the history in their trunks, in their abdomens, and then moving to making sculpture, and especially these works. You know, these are photographs, but there's something more. They're sculpture. They're documents. I said that before. And you mentioned your text-based work that you moved from photography to text. Well, if we think of a lot of conceptual artists in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even today, that text-based work seems to be conceptual, rational, somewhat removed. Everything in your work keeps coming back to visceral. And visceral means of the body, of the gut. You know, there's a physicality too. Your photographs, your figures in the landscape, the text work, because it's raging, it's screaming, it's not conceptual and full. And then all of that, now we're at a place where we'll end with figure 11. And the figure is much more grounded, much more solid, much more holding their own space and doing what they need to do to feel that sense of joy, grace, anointment,
Adornment.
adornment that you spoke of at the beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
You gotta avoid some.
Thank you
Thank you
for
all.
being here today. It really means a lot to everyone as a community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, we should pass at events like this. You know, like in the church, you pass the hat. Shouldn't art institutions get into the habit, especially smaller one? Like this is we're not at the Museum of Modern Art, which they have this board with whatever. It's like, shouldn't we be passing the hat at events?
We've got our Venmo code near the entrance.
Okay.
Our QR code.
Thank you all.
The galleries are open upstairs till 6, so please let's extend your joy, adornment, and anointment for art today upstairs. Thank you.